I hit a record there. Yeah, I guess we'll get straight to this because I'm going to try and hit a train in 56 minutes and then go to the hot
Oh,
spring.
yeah, I don't see us going super long on this.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just fucking do it, I guess. Well, Patreon get to hear me curse, right? Or you can listen to our podcast. I haven't listened to our Human Centipede one yet, but I'm like, I think I was just like went into full sailor mode probably because of that movie. Because usually on that podcast, like I edit myself a little bit, right?
Oh, is that right? I didn't.
I don't drop the F, like I'll say stuff instead of shit, right? But when
Yeah.
we did Human Centipede, I was just like, not doing that.
Yeah, it just I think the audience for Human Centipede 2 likely is an adult audience, so
Exactly. I mean, I don't try and make films and filth like, it doesn't, we can do that. It's fine. But yeah,
I need
this
to I need to watch my language anyway in general.
this week I got to watch Stan Helsing, which is, I don't know. Actually, I did giggle a few times in the first 30 minutes. So maybe the
I didn't
country bears.
remember hating it or anything. I mean, when y'all talked about Repossessed, I was like, yeah, that's still one of the most cringe
Not on the
inducing.
list. Not on the list. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, we decided we get a birthday pick. Mark's birthday pick is going to be the Warriors, the theatrical cut, not the one with the
Yeah.
comic book panels put in.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't like that. I thought it was fine the way it was.
I don't know what Luke's pick is. I'm assuming it's going to have bears or monsters. I think I might actually. But at the moment, I mean, my birthday's still a ways away, but I think it's going to be the Country Bears or Sherlock Jr., one of the two. Um,
Tell you what, I'm in for Country Bears. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure Disney Plus has got it.
The only downside is you probably have to watch it in full frame, but that has, I think it was pretty much filmed to be okay in full frame because they knew or they thought kids would love it and watch it, right? In 2002.
Yeah, gosh, I did not realize it was that far back.
Yeah, that's the thing. I assumed it was like a CGI fest, right? It's like, no, the Henson Creature Shop like built these mildly scary bear costumes. Like when you see their concert at the beginning, they kind of posit them more like the Allman Brothers band than the actual Country Bears. Um, but when they have their performance at the beginning, it's showing their farewell performance, and they're kind of terrifying on stage.
I've seen the Country Bears show. Like
I
I've
know, but these are different Country Bears. Like Big Al's a character, right? But these really are not the Country Bears that you encounter. Like Wendell is not a character. Zeke is
huh.
apparently is dead. Um, but it's more like the Allman Brothers or Leonard Skinner's getting back together.
That's a little bit like the Electric Mayhem series.
Again with the kid bear being so dumb, it's like he's helping the guy put up a sign. He's like, "What does this mean? Destroy Country Bear Hall?" Like he doesn't understand because he's so stupid.
Oh, that's great.
And then it's, still relatively young Haley Joe voicing it. So it's like, what? What? You're going to destroy the hall, even though he just helped to put up the sign. Yeah, like I said, it seems like kind of your style of humor for sure.
I'm you know me, so I mean, I'm all in.
Like it's like it's like the 2011 Muppets, but if like Walter was like much dumber. It even has the fucking diner musical number like the Muppets.
That's great. That is
Like I'm,
great.
I'm kind of gonna say the Muppets ripped off the Country Bears,
No, I mean, it sounds like the plot is almost identical.
and technically they're still Muppets anyway. I mean, if you're in a suit and Henson made it, that's technically still a Muppet, like fucking Sweetums, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this. Leave 5 seconds of silence. Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we delve into all of the episodes of the Twilight Zone and also beyond all the episodes of the Twilight Zone. This is Matt here, coming back for more. It's Andrew Shearer. Hi.
What's up, everybody?
I was going to say, what's up to you, but now it sounds weird if I do that.
I asked you first.
I'm doing a podcast. That's what's up. Okay.
Eh, eh, eh.
Oh, yeah. Today is five characters in search of an exit. In terms of this podcast's internal politics, it's a controversial one. Um, The average listener, of course, does not have privy to our Facebook chat.
Yeah,
Um,
the
with
good
and
one.
oh no, this is not the one you're on because regular guest Luke was annoyed that regular guest Mark spoiled this episode on the Midnight Sun episode and called him out for it. And
Oh,
and then Mark was like, "You could spoil me on the new Zelda game, right?" But then
uh-huh.
it turned out Luke had been sick, so Mark was much farther ahead of him on the new Zelda game. So this is an ongoing controversy, but
Oh
um,
God.
I guess we do. And then he was annoyed at me because my response to Mark spoiling this episode that we're now talking about was, it's 60 years old, whatever. So I
Yeah, if you
guess I
haven't,
guess it's new podcast policy not to talk about episodes that come after the one we're talking about.
you know what? I feel like I'm good. You know.
You can't be spoiled, right? You know these episodes already.
Yes, that's true.
You've seen all of them like 80 times.
Yeah, over and over. Yes.
So yeah, so this is you're not the we're talking about people that are following along and maybe I mean hell, I haven't watched the whole show. There's plenty that you could spoil for me, but I guess I don't care about spoilers that much anymore. I mean, it's nice when I'm surprised, but some like for other podcasts I did Singing in the Rain and I decided to read the synopsis and do all of the behind the scenes research before watching the movie.
Huh.
So there were no surprises, but I just wanted to know what I was watching, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, sometimes with musicals it helps you understand it.
Right, because I was like, if I'm trying to follow along, I might not
Yeah.
and not know where we're going. Um, like the people in Five Characters in Search of an Exit have no idea where they're going.
Hey, nice one.
Yeah, well, that's because I have a lot of trivia that I probably need to just start with.
Okay.
Original air date was December 22nd, 1961. This is your Christmas episode, people. Script is a Serling, though he adapted it from the short story The Depository by Marvin Petal. Petal. Look, I don't know which way you'd say that. Lamont Johnson is our man. He can direct like nobody can. William Wyndham was the Major, a legendary character actor. He showed up in films such as To Kill a Mockingbird, Brewster McCloud, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Uncle Buck. On TV, he went nuts on Star Trek's The Doomsday Machine and had the recurring role of Dr. Seth Hazlitt on Murder, She Wrote, but not the episode that my cousin Eleanor guested on. That was with Rod Taylor, who also shows up in The Twilight Zone. The ballerina was played by Susan Harrison. She was Burt Lancaster's sister in 1957's The Sweet Smell of Success, and that's pretty much it. She retired from acting in 1963. So another class performance from an actress in the Twilight Zone who hung it up right after for whatever reason. The Grave being the
Often
other
that would
recent
be,
example.
yeah, like maybe had a family.
Exactly. Murray Matheson played the clown, who'll return to the zone, but in the Kick the Can segment of 1983's Twilight Zone, the movie. He also had guest spots on shows such as Hawaii Five-O and Perry Mason. Kelton Garwood was our hobo. He made the TV guest rounds, but scored several episodes on Gunsmoke as Undertaker Percy Crump. Different than a clump, I guess. Um, Clark Allen was the feller clutching the bagpipes. Clutching the bagpipes, most of his efforts seemed to be about educating people about flamenco dance, along with his wife, Margarita Cordova. But on screen, he also showed up in a couple episodes of Peter Gunn. This week's music is repurposed from Fred Steiner's score for 100 Yards Over the Rim. I guess once you're almost 100 episodes in, you don't need so many new scores.
No.
Maybe you do. I don't know. But in
Well,
the
it's a
60s, you
completely
didn't.
different episode. Like a
Yeah.
totally other, you know.
Well, there is a rim in this one too. Both
That's
episodes
true.
have a rim. Yeah. It's the rim job sequence of I was gonna say trilogy, but we need a third before I could say that. Okay. Who knows? Maybe we'll get one. Uh you're laughing too hard to dry your teeth, man. Because I got a prologue for you.
Here we go. Are we ready? Let's get my rod out. Clown, hobo, ballet dancer, bagpiper, and an army major. Collection of question marks. 5 improbable entities stuck together in a pit of darkness. No logic, no reason, no explanation. just a prolonged nightmare in which fear, loneliness, and the unexplainable walk hand in hand through the shadows. In a moment, we'll start collecting clues as to the whys, the whats, and the wheres. We will not end the nightmare, we'll only explain it, because this is the Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zine. That
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zine had to be something in the 70s. So
This is the
so
banana.
some episodes I assigned to people. A few people choose their episodes. You're one of them. So you
Oh,
chose this one.
yeah.
You want to elaborate?
Yeah, this one's special for me because Twilight Zone, New Year's marathon, the tradition of my family, started by my dad, the late Roy Nathan Shearer. I would watch the Twilight Zone together on New Year's. So when I had my own family, my daughter and I, she when she was little, she just sort of ignored it. But when she started to actually watch things and become affected by things, I decided to sort of curate the episodes toward things that a kid might enjoy, but also wouldn't disturb her too much. And Five Characters in Search of an Exit was her favorite.
Ah,
And partly I think what hooked her in was the ballerina, and I knew it would. But the ending really, like, the fact that there's a little girl and toys are involved. I Yeah, this one is just a favorite. So now whenever I'm watching the episodes and doing a marathon and going through, if she's around, I'm like, you want to watch Five Characters, and she watches it. Of course, now that she likes horror and stuff, we're probably gonna go for some of the scarier ones. But this is a great one for a little kid to see, I think. Good intro.
yeah. And in my house, I have to preferably show things with Japanese subtitles, right? So,
Mhm.
ironically, as the guy who hosts the Twilight Zone podcast, we haven't watched so many of those, but I did score the Alfred Hitchcock masterpiece collection with all but one of the
Woo!
films have Japanese subtitles. So I have gotten her doing Hitchcock, which yeah, that's like two jumps over from the Twilight Zone and minus some social commentary, but
Yeah, I the Hitchcock one that my kids enjoy, and my favorite is Trouble with Harry.
that's
So
in the set.
yeah, no, I have that same set.
Except you have North by Northwest in yours. I had to buy North by Northwest separately because for some
I don't
reason
know. I don't know that I do.
the
Because
American
I
one
have,
does. And
is that right? Huh.
if you got the
Because
American one, it has it.
I have North by Northwest on its own. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I have Strangers on a Train is not on it.
Yeah, that's not on either. You have to get that separately. But anyway, I guess we should probably talk more about the Twilight Zone since this is a Twilight Zone podcast. Even if we've been
Yes.
Hitchcocking around the house. Um, which of the five characters is most creepy for you?
um, I don't know. I mean,
I think the
I
clown's
guess
too obvious an answer,
the
and he's
clown
kind of
is too obvious. But I love the way the clown is played, though.
and
It's like,
philosophically he's pretty much on point, right?
no,
Like
he
he's the one
is.
making the most sense out of the situation.
Yeah.
He's living in the now, which isn't that
True.
interesting, but if it's what he has to live in, so he does.
So you take the hand that you're dealt. Um, I think the bagpiper probably is the one that I find the most unsettling.
Bagpipe Melody of 1961. I did find it interesting that that actor's main jam was flamenco, and here he
Yeah,
was stuck with some
right. Who would have
bagpipes.
thought? Probably his
I had to
wife.
check. I know Dennis Hopper shows up in a Twilight Zone later on. That I don't think
Yeah.
that's a spoiler, but just for the at first, because I've seen this one before, but it's been a few years, right? So at first, is this the one with Dennis Hopper? Because he when you first see him, you're like, he looks a little bit like a young Dennis Hopper, but that's not him. So
No, the one with Hopper, the one I'm thinking of anyway, the World War II one is like that one's
yeah, yeah.
him.
So he will be showing up eventually. Again, we had Robert Redford like way too young a few weeks ago. So sometimes you have to like they've been de-aged by the passage of reverse time. So
Yeah, no, I find the hobo to just be sort of like your Royal Dano. He's just kind of too on the nose. So, but the bagpiper is just like, who, why? I'm just, I would have thought a cowboy or something.
who wants a toy bagpiper?
See?
Yeah. Did I have a toy? I know because I think my dad had. I inherited like little like old timey die cast metal things, and maybe one of them was a bagpiper. So
Hmm.
when I was
I
a
just
kid,
don't. It's not the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth thing that I would choose.
the thing I don't
Oh,
even know why or how I have this, but for some reason I have this like heirloom puzzle in here, which is
huh?
yeah. I don't remember how it ended up even getting into Japan, but yeah. For my old timey toys, here's like a kind of vintage Disneyland map of the US.
Whoa. Well, that's an educational tool. That's not a toy necessarily.
And yeah, yeah. I mean, you just kind of see how old timey it is. If well,
Yeah.
those listening to this can't, but yeah, it is kind of weird how some of these toys do, or puzzles in this case, just do kind of like dredge up in oddball places. I'm gonna guess one of my parents put it there when they were visiting in Japan, but we used to have like this little plastic Yoda, like in the
Hmm.
bathroom, right? And at some point, it just appeared by the family shrine in Japan. So I'd like to think Yoda bilocated Luke Skywalker style, and that's how it happened. I'm guessing maybe one of my parents did that as like a little joke, but in my head canon, Yoda bilocated like Luke does in the Last Jedi.
My favorite. Absolutely. That's what a gangster move.
The final Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi. That's right.
Oh, sure. That was the end of
um,
everything.
I do like something watching this time. I was wondering like where the line is between their seeming humanity and their inhumanity, because it's
Uh-huh.
like the whole thing is like how are we going to eat? It's like, well, do you feel hungry? No. So that's like a basic human thing missing. I mean, by the end of this podcast, probably one of us is going to get like a little hungry, right? So
I mean I mean it's true, and those are the things you start to think about whenever you're dealing with something where these people are experiencing sort of like uh you know this not the same thing over and over again necessarily, but just an impossible situation. There's a film that is really super obscure that I was sent during my blogger years called Elevator Movie, and the characters in that, a man and a woman, are stuck in an elevator together, and every day they when they wake up in the morning from having slept, there's food there for them, and someone has taken the pee and poo bucket away.
now I may be repeating myself because last week's was Once Upon a Time with Buster Keaton,
Mhm.
but I'm recording it in 3 days, so I haven't had that conversation yet. But his unmade movie, one of the unmade movies, I guess there's always a few, but Go West originally was going to be The Skyscraper, which was kind of a similar thing where him and his girl ended up on the top of a scaffolding of a skyscraper, and the construction workers go on strike, so they're stuck up there, and they couldn't because Keaton did want a weird realism in his movies. Like the guy who was writing the scenes, because I guess the scenist at the time, couldn't figure out how to get them down realistically.
Mhm.
So it was like 15 years later, by this time the guy was like a Pulitzer Prize winning writer or something. And he sees Buster on the set studios, like, I'm still working on a way to get you and the lady down from the skyscraper. But yeah, kind of a similar unknown, but also a similar thing of the being stuck. And well, I was about to say comedic because we have a clown, but I guess there's not really that much comedy in this episode.
No, it's really intense. It's what I in horror movies what I call bottle horror, because it's when everybody's like in one stays in one place, and it's just the characters trying to figure out either how to get out from where they are or keep something else from coming in.
Yeah, yeah. Also saves on money, and I love that they were using 66 Batman production techniques with just turn the camera sideways. A lot of sideways camera in this one, right?
Yeah, I
So
don't
yeah,
think I'm familiar with
but
Batman 66 side camera. You
no, when
mean
they're,
when like things are moving, like when things are moving one way or the other, and it kind of follows them?
I mean when they're climbing buildings.
Oh, I got you when it's turned to the side.
Yeah, because we basically, I feel like we get an iteration of that here, because
Yeah.
obviously that's how they're shooting the whole climbing out of the can thing, right? So
Yeah, which is great because I mean, they shot this thing so well to where it really is mysterious where they are. And if you're the type of person that watches these things trying to figure it out, which a lot of people do, um, it's just I don't know how you could possibly know. I mean, you could be like, "Oh, they're dead," because that's a pretty decent answer a lot of times. They're
yeah, yeah.
dead.
Well, they technically are dead, I guess, because they were never alive. Or did I guess their consciousness started in here. That's the weird thing. Like none of them, they all know who they are, like job description wise, but none of them have any previous memory, which is pretty Kafka-esque. There. All right. I think you froze a bit again.
A
Oh,
little bit. I didn't really get what you were saying.
yeah, yeah. Sorry. Um, I was saying, they know who they are, but they have no memory, which is weird. I mean, that's, I guess, pretty Kafka-esque.
Yeah, I mean it is, but you find out the reason why, you know. Um,
Well, oh, of course, of course. But the thing on this episode, I guess it is kind of like Toy Story, the Twilight Zone episode.
a
So
little bit.
William Wyndham's Major is basically Buzz Lightyear, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's right,
Um,
because I remember back to that how Buzz showed up and he has no idea that he's a toy like at all.
right, and the others are just like deal with it. So that's where
Yeah.
that bagpiper really should have been a cowboy, right? That would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah, guy, when I said that, I was just thinking a cowboy would be more interesting, but like aesthetically, it'd be too close to the hobo, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that might have. Well, we make the hobo a cowboy. I don't know.
And a drag queen, that would have been great.
That would have been awesome, and well, that would have replaced the clown, I guess. I'm just talking in terms of makeup and stuff,
I
Like if
do
you had
know.
two heavily made up characters, that would be like having a hobo and a cowboy, right? So, um,
Yeah. Hey, maybe a person of color would have been nice.
well, yeah, that wasn't beyond the Twilight Zone, but unfortunately, they didn't get to do that too often. What is it like
Four white
twice?
people, five white people in search of a black person.
Yeah, yeah, really. um, I did suggest to you to put on the Voyager episode, The Thaw,
Yes.
because I felt like that has Michael McKean playing a. I felt like the clown was pretty similar to this one. That one, of course, being way more disturbing than this one, because this one is basically philosophically just resignated to his position and making weird, creepy giggles about it. Where Michael McKean's cloud is psychotic.
No,
Uh,
he's like Caligula the clown. I mean, he was I mean, it had to have been a blast to play that character.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I was like, usually I'm a pretty major Trekkie. A lot of Trekkies listen to this, but I was like, him doing that role basically makes it a standout episode, I think. And also, it's one of those. That's one of the more Twilight Zoney episodes of Star Trek, I think. I mean, there's a
No,
lot of
you're
them, but that one is very much on the nose.
yeah, and had you just asked me to watch it out of context, you know what I mean, in terms of the Twilight Zone and this episode, I would have just identified it as a Twilight Zone episode of Trek to begin with because um they do a lot of this one shot. They pan to it a couple times, and it's McKean's character surrounded by all the weirdos that he's got in there, and it's kind of from a higher angle, so where they can get everybody in the shot. That's a Twilight Zone shot completely. And I haven't watched Five Characters in a while, several months, I guess, because since the last Christmas. But like, um, I want to say there's a shot like that, if not in Five Characters, definitely in one or two Twilight Zone episodes.
Oh yeah, and like you were talking about using this weird minimalist space as like a bottle horror, like that
Yeah.
Voyager does it. And yeah, for anyone that's just wants to have a interesting back to back comparison, I would recommend you can stream it poorly on Paramount Plus, I believe, if you don't have the discs or something.
Yeah, no, that's where I watched it and it was fine.
Okay, I've heard some complaints.
I mean, I wouldn't know the difference, but like that set is amazing. All the characters and stuff and all the costumes, it was really incredible. And which, Trek is known for having interesting environments, interesting aliens, but they all seem like possible. Where this is just that's out the window because it doesn't actually exist. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. Um, Sometimes thinking at the end of this episode, five characters, the lady's like, "Oh, this is just the start of the drive, right? Those
Mhm.
are because there's only the five toys in the bin at the moment." So I was
Yeah.
thinking, what about in a week when there's Trek reference 47 toys in there? Do they just like escape and go Gremlins on the town? That's the sequel I want to see.
I'd love that. I'd love that. No, they're stuck in a pile of people. Speaking of Caligula, probably an orgy will happen.
Well, that
The
that's more the
clown will.
Voyager episode. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess I
No,
just
no, you're right. You're absolutely right. But no, I think that's the thing. There'll be too much friction involved once the bin gets full, and
they got
someone's
to get
buying it.
out.
Yeah, but there's also going to be there's going to be trucks in there, and will they be sentient or not? You know what I mean? So it'll be really interesting. And then of course there'll be
Do they get
garbage.
Optimus Prime?
I don't know. Well,
Optimus
no, not
Prime will
back
save
then.
them. Well, not
He
back then,
could,
of course, but
but there'll also be garbage. You know,
garbage
like
Prime.
yeah, a talking cigarette butt, or
This was the Christmas toy collection, though. They're not garbage toys.
well, no, I'm just saying some ass will go by and throw trash in there,
Because if
thinking it's
they're
an actual
garbage,
bin.
if they're garbage toys, they say it's a metal bin, so theoretically the bin would be out and getting rusted, and they could just like poke a hole through no problem, right? But this is a functional bin for
Mhm.
toys that will be given to the orphans and such, right? So
Yeah, yeah. I just imagine, someone's gonna throw something in there that's not a toy just to just to be a litter bug.
mm. Oh, like they'll have to deal with like a pile of poo in the middle of their
Or,
toy
well, I was thinking more of a candy
convention.
bar that's half eaten, and so it'll be decapitated.
I would just put
Everybody.
Mr. Hanky from South Park down in there. Hey everyone, howdy ho! A clown, a tramp, and a bagpiper walk into a bar. That just seems like the beginning of somebody's joke. Uh, yeah. Do you have another big point you want to throw on this episode before I start asking you questions?
No, I'll just say that Five Characters in Search of an Exit is a great example of low budget filmmaking period. Because if you think about this one, this wasn't one where they had to go to a location. This is all on a stage, all on one set. And it's a great example of just sort
One
of
backlot
economy.
shot.
Yeah, it's economy of storytelling. If you think how simple this was, it is what the title says. It's perfect. I just think that, if you're somebody that wants to write a script or somebody that wants to make a film or something like that, this is one of the things I would recommend to you because it's every character is well established. Know anything about where they are or who they are, that's great because they don't need backstory. They're all like archetypes, icons, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, if you're someone that was thinking of writing something, I would say this is a great one to watch.
Yeah, because it feels deep. It feels like it has a lot of substance. But sitting here doing this podcast, I'm like, am I missing something?
Oh no, I mean, like with any art, it's mostly whatever it is that you bring into it. And so, because I'm a person that makes movies, I look at things from kind of a technical point of view, but I still want to have the experience of it. So I do want to be affected by it. It's one of the best gotchas of all the Twilight Zone episodes for me, anyway, because you're talking about um they're taking this big story, and I think this may have been the point. There is a lot of philosophical talk. There's a lot of things about are we in hell, and then at the end you find out, oh, it's just dull, And so at that point, it really takes the piss out of itself, and to me, that's just wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that's the thing. Most of the dialogue is more philosophical by nature, not narrative, right? So, I
Yeah,
mean,
because they want to get that misdirection in there. I mean, they do want it cerebral. They do want they are coming up against some big topics there, but there are some episodes where, they're kind of the writers are smelling their own farts a little bit, and you're just like, okay, man. So this one really at the end is just like the gotcha for me is just great because it's so basic.
which is also, I guess, why I had to start this podcast with an apology.
Oh, okay.
It's not a good episode to spoil, is it? If you've never seen it. I mean,
No,
again, it's still very good. I mean, like you can still sit there and appreciate how well made it is on a TV budget and stuff.
but we didn't go like beat for beat the exact ending. You know what I mean? I like the way that we talk about these episodes to where it is for someone that's already watched it, I think. And so we don't have to say, well, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And there's some where I feel like we still left the ending kind of obscured because of the way we're talking about it. So I still think I think you'll still get the effect if you watch it.
Well, yeah, that's why on this podcast I just have someone do the prologue and not do a summary, right? Trying to
Yes.
deal with the
Good decision.
flavor of the episode and not necessarily the nuts and bolts.
Hmm.
A little bit of that too, but the again, let's do the questions because those are based on the flavor of the episode, right? Which is
Yeah.
who in this episode went into the Twilight Zone?
Um, who's the one that falls out? Is it the soldier?
Yeah,
I think the soldier went to Twilight Zone.
because he fell out of the can.
Yeah, that's what it is because I have well, first of all, before this podcast, I never thought about who goes to the Twilight Zone. So I had to it took me a while to kind of develop something to where I could put some parameters on this. And so my decisions are always based on, well, who is literally stuck where they are, who has nothing going forward. And in Toy Story, this would be the one that escapes, right? This is the one that actually gets out of the
That's
room where the
Lotso
collector
strapped to
came.
the front of the garbage truck.
Yeah, it's a great guy. You've watched it more recently than I have, clearly. Um, but everybody else inside there, like, at first you would be like, well, that's the Twilight Zone because it's this inescapable thing, but it's not because somebody got out. The only thing is, when they got out, they are just a toy. They've lost their animation, they've lost their sentience, they've lost their consciousness. So, for all we know, that's the end of that guy.
Yeah, yeah, because once he's dumped back in, we just see the plastic or die cast metal in the 50s toys,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah. So that
yeah,
that's why that's my answer.
I wonder if
Because
him falling out like de um sentientized, is that a word?
it
Desentientized
now
all the
is.
toys because all the toys are just toys at that point. Like he
I
broke
think
the spell.
yeah, I think really that's just it's a great idea. The idea that when toys are not being observed by the human eye or not being actively played with or when they're put away, that they do speak to each other and all that stuff. I think that's a fantasy that most like the average kid has about their toys being alive.
What do you think Rose and Chewbacca do when I'm gone?
Well, Rose obviously, hopefully Chewbacca will be supportive of Rose and not racist.
Unlike
So I think
certain movies.
I was gonna say, so they probably go around just seeking out in the galaxy racists
they
everywhere.
they probably go through my extensive music collection.
They go to Lemmy Kilmister's apartment and start breaking all his Nazi memorabilia.
Mm. I bet I'm sure they've cleared out his apartment by now.
You gotta wonder what did people do when they're like, okay, God, this stuff has always freaked me out. Let's get rid of all this crap.
Start the bonfire.
Yeah. What do you think of Ace Ventura? Remember, I think is in When Nature Calls, where he's at the
Falling out
safari
of
hunter
the
guys, the safari hunter's like office or whatever, and he just goes, "This is a lovely room of death."
Oh, okay. All I remember, of course, is him coming out of the what is it? Hippo, elephant? What does he come out of?
Yeah, something like that. Water buffalo, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was great.
In this episode, do these toys deserve this weird fate? Do toys deserve anything? They're not being destroyed, so that's pretty good for a toy. They're not in Sid's
Yeah,
house if we're looking at Toy Story again.
yeah. Well, I don't know because yeah, um when I was a kid, if I didn't play with it anymore, my mom would stick it in a box and put it away. And if I never was like, "Where's the duh?" at a certain point in time, the box of toys would go to Goodwill. So I have zero of my toys when I was a kid. I have nothing.
I think I
All
have
I got
five
is
Legos.
you do
I still
solid.
I still have a spaceman.
Yeah. Well, I have none, and I d- I I take that back. There was a case of GI Joe parts that I ended up selling on eBay for. I mean, I just put it up for $1, and it ended up selling for a lot. I was like, who was buying arms? But apparently, that's a even stuff that was painted. You know,
Well, yeah, you and I deconstructed a bunch of GI Joes to make X-Men because they didn't make good X-Men toys at the time.
they did not, and you know, that was just us being ahead of our time.
Now you can get awesome X-Men toys, I believe. Well, you can
Yeah, they
toys of
cost a
anything.
lot.
You can get Funko Pops for the rest of your life, I guess, if that's your bag.
Yeah, but those are collectibles not meant to be played with, whereas like the Marvel Legends series, amazing toys, but they are not uh I mean
Is it a toy
that's
anymore if you're not playing with it? Yeah. Because at
well,
least these toys, that's what I'm saying. Maybe these toys do get what they deserve because they're in a bad spot at the moment, but theoretically, they're going to be played with soon because they're going to be distributed for Christmas.
yes, and so I think that's what every toy would, if we're gonna play by the Toy Story rules, that's what every toy wants is obviously it sucks being wherever it is they are.
And it makes it unclear how long they've been there, right? Like except for the major who just appeared, but if it's just started, none of them been there that long, right? So
No, nope, it hasn't. So that's
they
why,
just
they aren't having sex with each other yet, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, it's gonna get filthy down there by December 24th.
Oh
uh
yeah, no, Lo, it's just gonna be all I don't know what you would call it.
I wrote that this was a 70s porn setup.
Mhm. Yeah, five exits in search of a character, or five characters in search of a entrance.
Something like that. Where do you want to place this one on the tripometer?
Gosh, it's up there, you know, because the whole experience, I think, is a trip because it doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look like anywhere, And so I'm usually in the neighborhood of a 3, but I'm gonna give this one a what do we go to? Is it 1 to 5 or
Yeah,
1 to 10? Yeah,
5.
1 to 5. This is gonna be a 4 for me.
Okay, I'm at 4 too. Simply because whenever I watch this episode, Samuel Beckett and Franz Kafka come to mind very quickly. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I
this
can
is
see
very
that.
waiting for Godot stuff here. So, well, really more Kafka because they're having so much existential dread, I guess. But
No, I would, yeah, definitely.
that puts me up for because visually, I mean, other than the fact that we're watching people in weird toy cost well, it turns out to be toy costumes, you
Yeah.
know, it's trippy minimalism, but it's not like there's not like something to flip your mind other than the philosophy of it and the oddballness of the situation and all right. But that's certainly 4 worthy, just maybe not 5 worthy.
Yeah. No, I agree. And 5 would just be, I don't know. I definitely have a bar for where 5 would be. And this is only because it does become tethered to reality at one point. That keeps it from being any higher than 4.
Well, I'll shake hands with a little danger when Mark did spoil this one a little accident. It's because I asked him what is the 5 for him on the tripometer. But let's look backwards for that. I'll ask you the same question. Not looking forward, but backwards. Which I think Shadow Play was my standard for a 5.
Yeah. Shadow play would be. Yeah. Yeah, it would be.
And
So.
see, that adds all the visual weirdness too. That this one just keeps minimalist, right? I think that's the difference between this one being a 4 and that one being a 5. Now
Well,
that
for
one is
someone
like
that's never done
reality
any sort of,
warping.
yeah, for someone that's never done any sort of drug or ever gotten drunk or anything, my standard for what would be the tripometer comes from the movie The Trip.
Yeah, sure, why not?
So when I
That's
think it's got anything approaching the movie The Trip, then I go, well, that would be, when it's just like nonsense.
yeah, that's always that's a top 10 movie for me. I mean, if I'm
Oh, I
actually
know.
trying to be like quality wise, maybe not, but as far as like do I like it, it's in my top 10 for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, I have a great Roger Corman. I got a couple Roger Corman sets, but that one, the one that has The Trip on it's my favorite.
I guess we'll wrap this one up. What's going on in Gon's horrific land
So right now,
right now, being
I
the beginning of June?
in the beginning of June, I am in Knoxville shooting a movie with the crew that I made the movie Three Hole Punch with. That is on our physical release, our DVD mixtape Jigsaw, which you can buy on gonzorific.com.
There you are. As far as this is Time Enough Podcast, Time Enough Pod on Twitter is the best place to interface. We're on Facebook, but I sometimes forget that exists. So, um, or you can support us on Patreon, where we do lots of podcasts at Podcastio Podcastius. We talk about films. We talk about filth. It's the Films and Filth podcast, which Andrew is appearing on right about this time. If you want to, these guys did not turn themselves into a toy centipede, so that's probably for the best. But you and I and a few other and the other folks in the five characters in search of an exit controversy, we're there to talk about the Human Centipede 2 full sequence if you dare. If you don't dare, the week after that is Citizen Kane. We talk about the weird side of Disney films, as they call it Disney. And there's some gaming stuff. Luke loves Pokemon. We'll get you into each Pokemon family. Hyrule Field Report gets into the world of Zelda. Game Show gets into the world of gaming game shows with gamers. You can do that too. Okay. Where's your exit? Do you have an exit? Are you a
Yeah, I
character?
mean, no, well, one of the exits would be my nose for boogers. Other
Mm,
exit would be poo for the bum. The other would be the mouth, which I use on this show.
okay. I was actually just thinking of jumping out this window. I could survive it. There's a ledge, and I might break an arm, but I wouldn't die.
Whose arm?
My arm,
Oh, okay. I'll break someone else's arm.
a toy's arm. Okay, that should do it.